All right, we're going handheld for this one. I'm sitting outside my shop with my Gravely 1959 Gravely 7.6. It is electric start, and currently, oh look, there's no starter switch. So the starter switch had gotten gorped up, like the outside gasket of it had failed, and so stuff had gotten inside, it had gotten corroded, it was really intermittent. So I took it apart to fix it. Turns out everything on the inside is insulated with cardboard, and that cardboard, being 60, almost 70 years old, was severely degraded. So I had just a push button contactor that basically didn't work. Okay, so because I know that was the problem, because if I arced across the switch contacts with a wrench or a screwdriver, the thing would start right up. So got to fix the switch. Took it apart, everything's degraded in it, kind of fixed it up a little bit, worked for about 5 times, and then quit working altogether. It turns out another piece of the cardboard had degraded even again, and then gotten inside where the contactors were and was preventing the contacts from being connected. So I took it apart again. So let's go in and see the fix I'm currently making on this switch. Okay, so this is the switch, and it's got just 2 copper contacts. I currently see the tabs are currently bent open. I had opened the switch up, and currently it's just kind of pushed back together and sitting there. But if you look inside that center hole, which I don't know why that hole's there, it's not used for anything, you can see that what I have on the inside is leather. So let me open this back up and show you what I fixed on the inside, and then we'll talk about what we have to do in order to keep these copper contact screws from contacting the case. All right, so here's the inside of that switch, and really it's just a contactor. These are on the other ends of these copper studs, and they're just these kind of triangle pyramid shaped chunks of copper. And then there's a copper contactor here that goes inside like this and just bridges the two, right? So what was in here was just all cardboard, and it was completely trashed. It's super old, and so all you really need is something that's going to keep the copper from being able to touch the outside shell, right? And also then hold this spring-loaded contact. This is the button. It's spring-loaded. Right, it pushes against these contacts. So I need to screw these contacts in yet. They're not held down. They were held in with just a couple of washers, and there was a washer that was crimped on it that I had to destroy in order to get this apart. I'm going to put another leather piece on the top of this that'll hold these contacts in place, and I'm actually going to take this back apart. I'm going to pull this back out. And then I'm going to make this a super hard gasket by flooding it with super glue, which is what I have done to the gasket that's going to go on the outside. Right? This is just a heavy piece of leather flooded with thin super glue. Makes it super rigid. I can't even bend it with my fingers here, and that's going to become my insulator gasket here on the outside. This is my actual garage, and I moved the wood shop out of here a couple of years ago, and this is now the wife's hobby and sewing area. I still have some things in here that need to get out, much to her chagrin. We're getting there. I bought this place from my aunt and Uncle Bert and David, and Uncle David left me this nice collection of stuff. And 3/8, this says 3/8 24, this says 3/8 16. I know you can hardly read it, but there's a pair of 3/8 16 nuts in here, and I do try and keep this stuff sorted. But these are a lot thinner, I think, than those are. I'm just going to take this whole box over to the other shop, but I think what I'm going to end up doing is pulling those square nuts out of here and using those as lock nuts, basically, on those copper studs. Well, whatever else was in this box, these black ones here that I was thinking about using, they're more like 1/4 20. They aren't 3/8. So these are the only 3/8 nuts that I have, but they're thicker than I need because I've got to put a battery strap on here, right? And I still need to get a nut on there, and that's not going to leave me, I don't think, really quite enough threads to do that, because I still need a gasket and a washer in here. So I think what I'm going to have to do is put these on a grinder and make them a lot thinner. I need them as thinner than these, and this is what I've currently got. So let's go fix them, I guess. Actually, it turned out I had one thin one in there, so I only have to thin down one of these. So that's half the work right there. All right, ground it thinner, but now I need to chase the threads because I buggered them all up on this inside face. I've turned it around since I ground it. This won't take much. I just need to kind of just wring them out. All right. Not too hot to hold, but I still need to clean that edge up. It's a little bit rough. Over to the belt sander here for a second. All right, it's a little bit on the belt sander, and a little bit warm, but now it's basically the same thickness as this other one, so we'll have pretty much matched pair, and that should give me enough throw to put the nuts. The nuts that came on, they're on the outside, are these thinner ones in and out. Now they're about the same thickness actually. So let's put her back together. See if I can prop this up and show it to you here. All right, so we're going to take these off. I buggered the threads getting this off, and so I just chased them with a tap and die set. All right, so then here's my heavy gasket going back in. And am I going to need to open this back up? Yeah, they got pretty hard. So I just used a 3/8 Forstner bit on the drill press in order to drill these holes. But when I super glued them, they got a little hard. So let's go back over to the drill press and clean these back up. See if I can do this while holding the camera. Probably not. Probably a bad idea to try. All right, you can see what I'm going to do here. Drill down into that and just clean that hole out. I just can't. I need an extra set of hands, and I don't have it. All right, back in a sec. All right, so you can see here by the inside edge of that super glue has soaked into that leather and made me a really nice composite. It was significantly harder to drill through that. I could feel how rigid it was, and I soaked both sides of this in thin super glue. Super great, highly recommended Starbond. Not sponsored. We could try and fix that sometime in the future. It's great use for a CA glue in order to make this kind of much harder interface. All right, let's put this together. All right. Oh yeah, now it goes on great. Look at that. Just kind of jams right on there. And I'm gonna put my new thin nuts on there as basically as captive nuts to hold that in place. Like I said before, it was some kind of washer that was crimped onto the nuts, and I had to end up destroying it in order to get it apart. I have my socket set sitting outside. I probably should go get it in order to do this rather than using a crescent. But You do with what you have. And it's like walking outside to get it. Okay, now I got to pull these tight because I need to pull the studs tight into that interface. All right, that's about as tight as I can get that by hand. And I'm going to do this before I crimp the body back together, because I need to check that we're not shorted to the body and that the two will. All right. I need to make sure these aren't shorted to the body, and that when I press the button, they short together, make contact. Okay. So that still leaves me room for a couple of washers and the nuts to go on these. Like I said, these nuts are, look, you can see these nuts are kind of thin, so I still have that much gap even when all the threads are engaged. So that should be good. Let's double check with continuity meter. You guys see that? It says 0. So the impedance between the stud and the wall says it shows some connectivity, so that's not good. How about that one? That one also shows a couple of kilo-ohm between the two. What's that showing? It's also showing a couple of kilo-ohms. So that could be across the inside of the leather. Now, I moistened that leather in order to crimp it to make it thinner, so it might still have some moisture in it. So you might be seeing a couple of kilo-ohms across, but they're not shorted. They're not 0 ohms to each other or to the case. But see if I can do this. When I hold these on here, you see a couple of K, but when I push on the thing, it goes to 0. I think that's an open. Yeah, that's showing open. Well, I'm pushing this hard enough or what? Let me do this off camera a second. Make sure it's right. All right, so here's an interesting bit of troubleshooting. Right? If I measure across the two copper contactors, it's a couple of K. But if I just measure the leather, I get nothing. So it's not the leather that's shorting, it's something else. So I don't know, maybe it's this interface? Maybe this gasket that I made with super glue is somehow got some connectivity? Let's just check that. No, see, even if I poke on that pretty hard, that's still an open. So that's what I want. So it must be that the contacts here are contacting the shell, I would think, right? But if I go between the contact and the shell, yeah, sure enough, I got a couple of 100 ohms, right? On one and then also on the other, right? So it must be that there's one of these is contacting. That's not going to be any good. Let's see if we can fix that. I bought these pry tools at Harbor Freight for a couple of bucks, and that's the kind of thing I think Harbor Freight is really great for. Little hand tools that you're willing to get, you know, kind of mucked up and don't really care about too much, really, because they're so cheap to replace. Even though they say they have a lifetime warranty, so theoretically you could return them if they broke. But let's look here. What do we think? See, the issue is here, these are kind of soft in terms of their placement, and so they could be moving a little bit without this gasket on. And when I know they're not touching here, then what do I get in terms of the impedance? Let's double check. Open. That's what we want, 0. Right? Here to here, that should be a short, right? Here to here, that should be an open. So, yeah, one of these studs was touching here. I was hoping that this had enough rigidity in it to hold them away from the shell. And it may have been, I just got the geometry just slightly wrong. All right, put that back on there. Get the glare off the meter. Let's check it again. That looks good. All right, let's put these nuts back on. All right, let's check it again, see if I got it right this time. That's better. All right. That's got a short, and that doesn't. So this one is still shorted to the shell. They aren't both shorted to the shell. So I think that you can see this one's leaning out a little bit. I think that's the problem. Let's see if I can pull that in here. Just a pair of channel locks, maybe. Do that without buggering the threads. Did that make a difference? Here's the question. That's good. Okay, so I think if I tighten this down, then it shouldn't move. The problem is if it moves, and if it touches the shell, the outside shell of the switch, then that means that your positive is connecting to your negative because the frame of the tractor is negative and the rest of the thing is positive. So you can't have the positive and the negative contacting each other, or you're just going to short out your battery and probably cause a fire in this thing. You probably cause a fire inside the switch, which you definitely don't want. Double check it. That looks good. That looks good. That looks good. Okay, so we're not shorted anyway. And I've gotten this pretty tight. And once this is tightened down, you know, it really shouldn't go anywhere. So just make sure it's really tight. I'm actually going to go over and put this in my vise and tighten it down really good. All right, back in the vise. Let's check it one more time. Nothing here, nothing here, and nothing here. All right, and these are tightened down pretty well now, so they really shouldn't go anywhere. All right, so now we got to worry about the inside, and let's make sure that we are going to get good contact with the spring-loaded contactor. So let's put this back together and then see what we get here. Sit. So that goes together pretty easily. Let's get a, I'm just going to clamp this together for the moment with a vice grip so that I don't have to try and hold it together. All right, so now there's a fair amount of throw in that switch. That's a good, I think that's a reasonable amount. So then the question is, all right, these two should be open. They aren't. What the heck? That's a couple of hundred ohms there. And that's a couple of hundred ohms there. Oh, come on. Why would clamping this in cause this to short to the frame? I don't get it. It's a lot longer video than I thought it was going to be. I just checked this, right? Come on. All right, that's nothing. This one contacts. I really need a shoulder bolt of some sort. Oh no, that one contacts. And that one doesn't. No, they're both okay. I'm worried this is going to be too fragile a fix. I really need a shoulder bolt in here. Of course, I could have just shorted it to the other side. Oh, come on. Monkey with it with the vice grips again. I mean the channel locks. Oh! You guys fell over. Hold on. I got this very precariously perched on a piece of wood behind a clear plastic box, which you might have been able to see on the bottom. I'm trying to get you out of the, trying to get the box out of the frame. Oh, come on, now it's on both of them again. I can't win. Let me find a better way to do this. Here, by the way, is the interior gasket, which I kind of had all together before and didn't really show you separately. I've compressed and slightly skived the edges of this so that the plunger goes in. Here, you can actually see the ring mark there in the middle. And it goes inside this box. And the right answer to do this is heat shrink tubing. So I happen to have the right size heat shrink. I'll put some of that on the end of these, maybe about, I don't know, yay much. Couple 3/16 of an inch, maybe not quite a quarter. Heat shrink that on there, and that should provide me a good insulator. That looks about like the right depth, right about there. Push it into that a little bit, just cut it off. Same again. All right. It's maybe a little much. I can trim it down. There we go. That will definitely solve that problem. Let's skinny those down a little bit and then heat shrink them on there. Going with about 2/3 of the original size. I ground these flat, by the way. They used to be diagonal cutters, and they're now flush cutters. I just ground them flat on the belt sander. All right, let me go get a heat gun. Or do I have my torch? No. I just got back from the Pennsic War, and the torch is still packed. Let me unpack the heat gun, because I know where it is. All right, one heat gun. That's hot. It's a heat gun. All right. That'll solve that problem. Now let's put this all back together. Yeah, that looks like a good fit here. Refocus. There we go. So you can see the heat shrinks up through the leather a little bit. That'll work good. That should solve that problem. You're going to electrically insulate something, use electrical insulator. Obviously, the leather works pretty good, but And it's going to work better than the cardboard that was in there, and it's going to last 100 times as long. Somebody will take this apart in 50 or 60 years and go, dang, what happened to here? That's not stock. All right. He goes back in here. Press fit that in there. All right. Right, now you can see, that's perfect. The heat shrink is up above the level of the metal, so it'll provide an insulation against the body of the thing, and I don't ever have to worry about it. That's what I was worried about, is that this wasn't going to be a robust fix, because I certainly don't want to have to do this again. I have already spent 3 hours fixing the switch. You guys have not seen all of it by any stretch. All right, back to my leather gasket here. All right, these guys back on. Trying to do this with the phone prop just so I don't get my hands in the way of the shot. It's kind of silly. All right, let me go tighten that back up in the vise again. All right, let's do this impedance check one more time. Should be good. Open. Also open. Right? Oh, come on. I don't know. It's like a capacitive charge or something. That's weird. I have it in diode mode. What if we just put it on fixed impedance? Let's just put it on 200K. Do I get anything? Yeah, maybe there's some capacitive coupling there, but it's basically an open. All right, let's put this frickin' thing back together. All right, let's see if we can test this. I'm going to screw these leads on here so I don't have to try and hold them while I'm trying to test this thing. I'm just going to finger tighten those. Whoops. You guys got to quit falling down like that. All right. Douche. Okay. Hey. Back propagate it with a wrench here. All right, let's do this. Let's start this nut on here. I know, my fingers are blocking the shot. Give me a second. Okay. We're at, this is in a 200K range, so this is 71 times 200 times 100K, so that's a lot. But when I engage this, that didn't work, did it? When I engage this, it should short. I have almost no throw. Why is that? I'm going to do this. All right. Let me see what's going on here. Okay, here's the deal. It does work if I stand on it, but if I try and just compress it with my hand, it's got a fair amount of throw, but I can't push it far enough. I think what's happening is that the leather in the center is too thick, and the button can't go quite down far enough to contact those things. So let's take a look and see. I think we will see when I take this off here that, yeah, that leather in the center, see that circle right there? That's really compressed. So what I've got here is there's just too much material in the center, and we can't push it down. We can't push this down far enough into that in order to make contact between these. So what I need to do is go take out the middle of that piece of leather. So I used a Forstner bit and I basically skived that down. Now I want an insulator to remain between here because I want this, the tip of this, to be insulated from the body. And I don't know whether this is an insulating ring here. This thing here, focus. This wide ring here, I don't know whether that ring is an insulator or not. It feels flexible, so it might be. So this copper might be, probably has to be completely insulated from the shaft. So even if this contacts the bottom of that body of the thing, it doesn't matter. And that might be the reason that that center hole is there. So I should be able to, now that that's super thin, right? Let's see. Yeah, now that that's super thin, that should go in a little bit easier, but it won't contact the body anyhow because that's why the center hole is there. I always wondered why there was a third hole, just so that it makes sure that that thing really won't contact the body. All right, so I put it back together and I squeezed it down on in the vise until I could make it work. And then I don't know if you can see this curve right here. That's the impression of where that plunger's going. So it's actually impacting against this leather. So this wall needs to be thinner. All right, so after a couple more minutes of mucking around, I got this kind of cleaned up a bit, but then I decided that this leather on these sides was now just really too soft, and I just flooded it with super glue. So now it's really hard, and I can kind of carve it a little bit, and it's kind of easier to carve in some ways because I can take off a finite amount of material here. You probably can't see that, but it's like I can carve it like wood now, rather than the soft leather. I have a hard composite interface. See, I can take a chip off like that. And then we can fit that back in here. Now it's too thick, all right? So I need to take some more material out very carefully, keeping my hands away from the blade. I have, interestingly, right there's a small white scar. You can see that right there. I was doing door jams, and you strike the shims on the door jam and then knock them off, and I knocked it off right into the knife blade. As a much younger person, it was probably 40 years ago. No, that was probably 50 years ago. Well, 45 anyway. It's my day off. I don't do math on my day off. That's my standing joke. It's not true, of course. It has the benefit of being humorous. All right. I'm trying to keep enough material here that I've got an insulator between the plunger and the body of the switch. But it needs to go in there, obviously, or it won't work. Now I can see a line right here where it was impacting, so I can carve that off. Yeah, this is so much easier to carve. Where was it impacting? Right here. Yeah, now that it's a composite, it's so much easier to carve. Gotta make sure it's not on these edges either. Kind of looking at the geometry of the thing. All right, let's clamp this back up and try it again. So eventually I went and got my very sharp 1/4-inch dovetail chisel and was using it to carve away some of this leather here in the bottom. Stop moving. Oh, okay. And I got a little metal exposed right there, but I think that'll be okay. This lets me kind of just very carefully pare away at this leather. I keep blowing it away so I can see how much is coming out when I tap it. All right, I could see that it was compressed here around these edges, so that's why I'm carving those away. Let's try this again. All right. That seems to be a little bit better. Let's try a full-up test again. All right, after taking it apart and putting it back together and carving some more of the leather out, that's reliable. All right, now we got a thunderstorm rolling in. Let's go put this back on the tractor. All right, so the switch goes right here. Did it like that, and positive goes on one side, and this jumper cable goes from the other side to contactor on there. And I currently have the positive disconnected off the battery, so I don't have to worry about anything shorting out. Well, if it isn't one thing, it's another. That stud just stripped. Look, there's no threads on the end of that thing at all, and there used to be. Now what the hell do I do? Damn it. That's a bloody nuisance. Well, on with the show, I guess. Well, if I don't put any washers on it, I can get it tight. Not ideal, but it'll probably be fine. Let's see if she starts. Now, I'm not really going to try and start it. I just want to know whether it kicks over. Of course, I have to reconnect the battery terminal first. All right, here we go. So, that's really all I care about. I can push that and the starter motor runs. Right. Anyhow, 4 hours, fix the switch. Now my problem is the PTO doesn't stay engaged. So this is your PTO. That engages the mower blade and that releases it, but it pops out really easily. So I have to take the that whole assembly apart. That's next. Stay tuned. So that last part of that video was shot in August of 2025. It is now mid-April of 2026. And I've done a fair amount of work to the mower. One of the things that I did was I talked about the PTO. I took it all apart and rebuilt it entirely. It works pretty good now, but it still needs to be a little bit more snug than it is. I need to do another adjustment on it, but it does work. The second thing is, if you can see right here, right there, that's the starter motor. It's red. The old one was gray. I burned the starter motor out because, let me show you, in the handle, there's a kill switch, and I shorted it out, and I didn't know it. Hold on, let me show you. So in the right-hand handle of the mower, there's this kill button. Now I currently have it disconnected because what happened was I got the mower stuck at one point, and when I unstuck it, I got it stuck on like a hill and I had to pull it out. Well, when I unstuck it, I shorted out this wire. You can see there's a piece of electrical tape on it, and I've currently got it completely disconnected. This goes to the magneto, and this runs from the magneto up to that button. And that button will short the magneto to the frame, which is negative, and that's the kill switch to kill the spark plug. The problem was, this is where that wire connects, right here. On the inside of this, there's another wire that doesn't have a round lug. It's got just a shovel. And I inadvertently loosened the inner lock nut here, and that allowed that shovel to fall off, and I didn't know it. So I ended up having to take the magneto completely apart because I thought it was a problem with the spark. But it turns out that wire was just sitting on the inside, shorted to that case. And I tried to start it and tried to start it and tried to start it, and eventually burned the starter motor out. So then I had to put a new starter motor in it. So this is my new starter motor. Of course, that also solved my my stripped lug problem. So whatever, but it works. And now she just starts and runs super reliably. So let's give her here a startup. There's a underneath these. There's a cutoff valve for the gas, so that gas doesn't continually drip into your carburetor. Turn that on. Give her some gas. Give her some choke. Now we're talking. That's what you need. Reliable start every time. So also in the last couple of months, I did this last fall, is built this overhang where the gravely stored, and I'm currently working on a griddle. I got to clean it up. There's the plow blade, and I did a little short where I showed. Did I do that short? Nah, I just made it. It was just a Facebook picture. But hanging from that, I can put a block and tackle, so I can pick up the mower deck and put it and the plow blade and put them on and off much easier than I can do it by hand. But yeah, she's got some issues, minor stuff, but I just cut the yard with it. That was from last week, and obviously we got a little more to do, so back at it. So I got a little mowing to do with the old girl, and get on that today. It's Friday, it's my day off, and it's fun driving the tractor around the yard. Thanks for watching. Anybody who watched this whole thing, I appreciate it. Like and subscribe and all that nonsense, and see you next time.